What starts as a school year full of promise quickly unravels into a test of courage, when being the only black student becomes more than just a number. What would you do if the place meant to shape your future tried to erase you first? Let us know in the comments section below. Lydia McAdams always sat straight-backed, hands folded neatly on the desk before the first bell rang. Not because she was eager, but because she knew eyes were already watching her, quietly tallying up reasons she didn't belong. It wasn't just the stares from across the room. It was the way they looked through her, like she'd somehow wandered off the brochure cover and into their perfect little world. In the front row of honors biology, her name sounded different, rolling off Ms. Kettering's tongue. Longer, heavier, with the same hesitant edge every teacher used when they reached her name on the attendance sheet. Lydia McAdams? She raised her hand without speaking. The teacher's eyes darted toward her, then away just as quickly, like she wasn't sure how to react to the girl who didn't match the rest of the school's glossy yearbook smiles. Lydia had been at Fairfield Academy for 2 weeks. She hadn't spoken to anyone outside of group projects, and even then she spoke only when she had to. Her mother, Danielle, called it the transition phase, but Lydia called it what it was, being alone. Fairfield wasn't built for girls like her. She'd known that since the first school tour, when every hallway was filled with portraits of donors who all looked the same, framed in gold leaf and dated smiles. She'd smiled back at the admissions officer anyway. She'd laughed politely at jokes about diversity being so important these days, and when she got her acceptance letter with a full academic scholarship, she'd cried into her mom's shoulder, not out of joy, but from the pressure of having to prove they hadn't made a mistake. "You here on scholarship?" someone had whispered to her on the first day, like it was a contagious condition. She had nodded, and the girl just said, "Oh," like that explained everything. That same girl. Bridget Ames was sitting next to her now, tapping her manicured nails against the lab table, watching the teacher fiddle with the projector cord. "You ever dissect anything before?" Bridget asked, not really looking at her. "No," Lydia said. Bridget smirked. "Didn't think so." The comment didn't hurt. It was the fact that it was said so casually, like it was her role in the story. To be inexperienced, out of place, and always catching up. At lunch, Lydia sat under the staircase in the quad. It was the one spot where she could hear conversations but not be in them. She pulled out her homemade lunch and opened a book. Not because she wanted to read, but because books were easier than people. Behind her, laughter erupted from the senior table. She didn't look up. She knew the sound of belonging when she heard it. And she didn't have it. "Ha! Hey, Lydia, right?" She turned. A girl with strawberry blonde curls and a nose piercing stood a few feet away, balancing a tray of food. "And Layla, can I sit?" Lydia blinked. It wasn't the question that shocked her. It was the tone. Normal. Casual. No pity. No edge. "Sure," she said, sliding her bag closer to her side. Layla sat and popped open a can of sparkling water. "That math class is brutal, huh? Mr. Granger's eyebrows alone should be illegal." Lydia gave a short laugh, tiny, like a breath, escaping. They sat in a rhythmless quiet for a few minutes. Then Leela leaned in slightly. "Do they make you feel weird here? Or is it just me?" Lydia hesitated. It was a trap, wasn't it? The kind where you answer honestly and it gets twisted. But then she looked at Layla, who was already frowning at her own sandwich like it had personally offended her. "Not weird, just invisible," Lydia finally said. Layla nodded, and that was it. No follow-up, no forced alliance. Just a moment that felt like real air in a vacuum-sealed school. Later that day, Lydia walked into the main office. She needed to get her science project approval form signed. The secretary looked up, confused. "Can I help you?" "I need Dr. Kilmer's signature on this," Lydia said, holding out the paper. The woman ticketed. "What for?" Science fair, Lydia replied, a bit firmer. You're in it. Lydia blinked. Another pause. Then the secretary slowly reached for the form, signing it in one corner. She handed it back without a word and went back to typing. As Lydia turned to leave, the door behind her opened. Principal Kilmer walked in, his hair perfectly parted, his smile already fixed. "Miss McAdams," he said, surprised. "How are you settling in?" Lydia nodded. "Fine." "Excellent," he said, the word hollow as a drumbeat. "If you ever need anything, well, you know where I am." She didn't respond. Because she didn't know, not really. She didn't know who he was when he wasn't performing concern, or what anything meant when it came from someone like him. Outside, she folded the form and tucked it in her backpack. Inside, something had started to uncoil. A tension she hadn't let herself name before, because it wasn't the words they said. It was the way they made her feel like she had to apologize for being there. Lydia McAdams was tired of apologizing. At dinner, Lydia picked at her salmon while her mom recapped her day like she always did, voice light and eyes tired from long hours managing 2 branches of the same bank that still made her prove she deserved the title manager. The kitchen light flickered overhead, but Danielle barely noticed it anymore. Lydia did. She noticed everything now. "How's school?" Danielle finally asked between bites of roasted vegetables that she herself had barely seasoned. "Fine," Lydia said, rolling a pea across her plate with her fork. Danielle looked at her, the kind of look that reached deeper than the question itself. "You say that every day." "Because it's the same every day." "Same how?" Lydia's jaw tensed, but she kept her gaze on the plate. "Same people, same classes, same stares." Danielle sat back in her chair and sighed, fingers tightening around her water glass. "They don't talk to you?" Lydia shrugged. "Only when they have to. Mostly they just look like I'm a glitch in the software." Danielle's expression turned firm, but not angry, just focused. "Lyd, you earned your way in. You're not there because they let you in. You're there because you deserve it." "I know," Lydia said quickly, but her voice cracked at the end, betraying something she didn't want to admit. Danielle stood, walked around the table, and knelt beside her daughter's chair. "I know it's hard, but you keep showing up. You keep being brilliant. You keep being you." Lydia blinked hard, then nodded. She didn't have the energy to argue. She also didn't have the energy to pretend everything was fine. That night, she lay awake long after the lights went out, the sound of the dishwasher still swishing in the kitchen down the hall. She opened her laptop and stared at the tab for the science fair entry form. Her project was ready. She'd spent 3 months researching the impact of water contamination on immune response in marginalized neighborhoods. It was detailed, data-backed, and far more complex than what most students would even attempt. But she hesitated. Not because she doubted her work, but because she already knew it would be questioned. The next day, she handed the printed outline to Ms. Kettering. The teacher flipped through the pages, frowning like she was looking at a menu in a foreign language. This is, a bit ambitious," she said slowly. "It's within the guidelines," Lydia replied. "I'm sure," the teacher said, not looking up, "but it might be challenging for the judges to understand." It included an executive summary with graphs. Miss Kettering finally looked at her. "Lydia, sometimes simplicity is more effective." Lydia nodded, but inside she wanted to scream. She knew the code. Simplicity meant safe, and safe meant forgettable. After class, Lydia stopped by the computer lab to print her visuals. As the color printer hummed, she saw Leila leaning against the back wall, phone in hand. "Hey," Leila said without looking up. "Hey," Lydia replied, sliding her papers into a folder. "What's your project about again?" Leila asked, casually flipping through her phone. Lydia told her. "No sugarcoating, just the facts." Layla finally looked up, eyebrows raised. That's intense. It's real, Lydia said. I didn't say it wasn't. Lydia paused. What's yours about? Solar-powered skateboards? Lydia blinked. Don't laugh, Layla grinned. I rigged a prototype. It's totally janky, but it kinda works. That's actually cool. Thanks, Layla said, softening. Yours is going to win, though. Lydia didn't answer. Not because she didn't agree, but because she didn't think winning meant what it used to. That Friday, the headmaster made a school-wide announcement about the upcoming science fair and our tradition of celebrating academic excellence and innovation. Lydia's name was not mentioned. She told herself it was an oversight, but she didn't believe it. By the time the day of the fair arrived, Lydia had memorized every part of her presentation. Her trifold board stood tall, precise, and packed with color-coded data. Her samples were organized. Her display tablet looped a short video she'd edited the night before. As the judges moved through the gymnasium, she saw their expressions shift. Curious, cautious, confused. When they finally stopped at her booth, one of them, a man with a lanyard from the state university, stared at her board for a long time. "You're a freshman?" he asked. "Yes," Lydia said. He glanced at the project again. "And you did all of this yourself?" "Yes," she said again, sharper this time. The other judge scribbled something in a notepad. They didn't ask any questions about the research, just the process, just how she had gotten the materials, just if she had outside help. By the time they walked away, Lydia's fingers were trembling. She gripped the edge of her table and forced herself to breathe slowly, quietly, invisibly. When the results were announced at the end of the day, she didn't hear her name, not even honorable mention. Instead, first place went to a project titled Eco-Friendly Glitter. Layla found her near the janitor's closet where she'd gone to sit. Not cry. Just sit. "I saw the board," Layla said quietly. "I saw the whole thing." Lydia didn't say anything. "They said it didn't meet formatting requirements. That's what Ms. Kettering told me." "I followed every rule," Lydia whispered. "I know you did." Silence fell again. Then Layla looked at her, voice low. "You want to make a scene?" Lydia blinked. "What?" Layla smiled. Small, dangerous. "I've got a phone, and I've got a TikTok account. You say the word and we blow this thing wide open." Lydia looked at her for a long time, and for the first time since she stepped foot in that school, she didn't feel alone. The video was only 45 seconds long. Layla had filmed it with steady hands and quiet fury. It showed Lydia standing beside her project, explaining her findings in sharp, clear sentences. Then it cut to the awards ceremony, where Lydia stood in the crowd, silent, her face unreadable, as the glitter project claimed first place. The caption read, "She did everything right, so why was she ignored?" It wasn't just the footage that made it viral. It was the truth in the silence between frames. By Monday morning, the video had hit 200,000 views. By lunch, it was over 500,000. By the end of the school day, Lydia's name was trending on platforms she didn't even use. She didn't smile when she saw the numbers. She didn't speak when classmates whispered her name like it had grown power overnight. She only walked to her locker, retrieved her chemistry textbook, and made it to class exactly 2 minutes before the bell. But inside, her hands were buzzing. She wasn't used to being seen. Principal Kilmer called her to his office during 6th period. The secretary didn't meet her eyes this time. When Lydia entered, Dr. Kilmer stood by the window, arms folded behind his back like he'd been rehearsing for her arrival. "Please, sit," he said, motioning to the chair across from his desk. She didn't move. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "You've stirred up quite the discussion online." Lydia said nothing. "I understand you're upset about the outcome of the science fair." "I followed all the rules," Lydia said evenly. Kilman nodded slowly, as if that fact were inconvenient. Well, the judges have discretion, of course. They found your project, while impressive, a bit outside the scope of what we traditionally reward. Lydia stared at him. You mean projects that don't talk about racism? He flinched, just slightly. Let's not make this about race, Lydia. But it is, she said, louder now. It always is. His expression turned hard, mouth tight. You need to be careful how you frame things. Online outrage can be dangerous. For who? She asked. Me or the school? He stepped forward, tone softening. Look, Lydia, you're a bright student, but Fairfield has a reputation we can't afford. I don't care about Fairfield's reputation, she cut in. I care about the truth. There was a long, taut silence. Then Kilmer leaned on his desk, hands flat. We'll issue a statement, clarify that there were no discriminatory practices involved. We'll encourage academic growth and reiterate our support for all students. That should be enough to settle things. Lydia's stomach turned. You want me to be quiet. I'm asking you to be reasonable. She shook her head. I was reasonable. I was quiet. I worked harder than everyone else, and still, it wasn't enough. She turned and walked out without waiting to be dismissed. Outside the office, students were glued to their phones. Some glanced up as she passed, others didn't bother hiding their curiosity. By the time she got home, news crews had parked 2 streets away. Her mother's phone had been ringing non-stop. Danielle stood at the sink, staring out the window with a dish in her hand she hadn't rinsed. Lydia stood in the doorway. They called the house, Danielle said. Some woman from the school board said they want to de-escalate. Said the principal thinks it's gotten out of hand. Lydia dropped her bag. They made it get out of hand. Danielle finally looked at her, eyes bloodshot but burning with something deeper than exhaustion. Do you want to keep going with this? Lydia paused. Danielle stepped forward. Because if you do, we're not turning back. I'm behind you, but you need to be ready for what happens next. Lydia nodded. Danielle smiled for the first time all week. Then let's make them hear you. The next morning, Lydia wore her backpack like armor and walked into school through a crowd of reporters and iPhones. Her story had been picked up by a local news affiliate and then by a national education blog. Suddenly, she wasn't just the black girl at Fairfield. She was the girl who challenged a system and didn't back down. Students watched her differently now. Some with curiosity, some with annoyance, but not with indifference. Layla found her by her locker and held up her phone. We're organizing a student petition, digital and paper. Already got 200 signatures. Lydia raised her eyebrows. How? Layla smirked. Turns out a lot of kids think the science fair is rigged. Who knew? By third period, signs had started popping up on locker doors. We stand with Lydia. Fair grading. Fairfield. The administration scrambled to take them down, but more replaced them by the hour. In history class, Lydia was asked to share her opinion during a discussion about civil disobedience. She didn't hesitate. Silence helps the system. Speaking up risks everything. But it also makes change possible. When she finished, even the students who never talked looked up. After school, a crowd gathered outside the building. Students, parents, even former alumni holding signs. Lydia stepped forward. She hadn't planned to speak, but someone handed her a megaphone. Her hands trembled as she raised it. I didn't ask to be a symbol, she began. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted to be treated the same as anyone else here. But when you're the only one in a room and no one looks at you, you start to wonder if you're even there at all. The crowd was silent now, not because they weren't listening, but because they were. This school has rules. I followed every one. But the rules don't matter when people make decisions based on what they expect of you, not what you've done. She scanned the faces, some angry, some tearful, many inspired. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for the truth to matter. And this time, when the applause broke out, it was thunder. The meeting was called in a rush, early morning, closed doors, high tension. Members of the school board sat in stiff rows inside the auditorium, their suits sharp and their smiles tighter. Parents filled the left side, murmuring under their breath. Students took up the right, scribbling signs on loose-leaf paper with Sharpies that bled through. At the center of it all sat Principal Kilmer, lips pressed in a flat line, his jaw shifting as he tried to read the room. Lydia and her mother sat near the front. Danielle's hand rested gently over her daughter's, steady and calm, even as her own knee bounced under the chair. It was the kind of calm you wore like armor when you'd fought too long to let fear win again. The board chair tapped the microphone. We are here today to address concerns raised by students and families regarding the recent science fair, as well as broader claims of unequal treatment. We encourage respectful discourse and request that all comments remain constructive. Polite words for a not-so-polite storm. A few parents went first, mostly white, mostly annoyed. This is a distraction from real education. My daughter worked hard on her project and didn't win either, but we didn't make a scene. This is just social media hysteria. Then a mother stood. Black, mid-40s, professional tone, but her voice cracked halfway through. My son transferred out of Fairfield last year. He was told he was too aggressive in group projects. He's now thriving somewhere else. We just didn't have the energy to fight anymore. But she did. She gestured toward Lydia, and I'm proud of her. The audience shifted. A few people clapped, hesitant, then louder. The board chair raised her hand, trying to calm the swell. Let's proceed. Miss McAdams, you have the floor. Lydia stood, heart pounding loud in her ears, but her voice came out clear. No microphone needed. I didn't want to speak today, she began, because I didn't think anyone would really listen. Not when I'm saying things people don't want to hear. But I've spent too much time trying to be invisible, and it didn't protect me. So I might as well be heard. She paused, scanning the rows. I didn't ask to be your headline. I just wanted a chance, a fair chance. I followed every rule, met every deadline. I did work that mattered, and still I was ignored. Because I don't fit what some people expect excellence to look like. Her eyes briefly locked with Principal Kilmer's. He blinked, but said nothing. I'm not angry because I didn't win. I'm angry because I wasn't even considered. Because they looked at my name, at my face, and made a decision before reading a single word. Silence gripped the room. Then she added, softer now, I don't want to burn this school down. I just want it to be better for whoever comes after me. That line, for whoever comes after me, hit like thunder. A girl in the back row stood, then another. Soon, half the student section was on their feet, holding up signs. We hear her. Equity is not a trend. Excellence looks like everyone. Danielle watched from her seat, tears shining but unshed. She'd waited years to see her daughter this sure of herself, this loud. By the next morning, the school board had posted a formal statement. We acknowledge the concerns raised by Lydia McAdams and members of the Fairfield community. An independent review of the science fair process will begin immediately. In the meantime, Lydia McAdams' project will be submitted for national competition consideration, and Fairfield Academy will undergo staff training on equity and bias. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. 2 weeks later, Lydia sat at her usual lunch table under the staircase. This time, Layla joined her without asking. Do you hear back yet? Layla asked, dropping a chocolate milk beside her tray. Lydia shook her head. Still waiting. Layla opened her phone. Well, while you wait, check this out. You're in Teen Voice Weekly and Buzz Up. And some journalist wants to interview your mom for a feature on parenting changemakers." Lydia blinked. "What even is Teen Voice Weekly?" "I dunno," Layla grinned. "But they like you." Lydia rolled her eyes, but she was smiling now, really smiling. That afternoon, she walked into biology and found a new poster on the wall. "Science is for everyone." Below it, a printed screenshot of her project's title and summary. No school logo, just her name. Mrs. Kettering didn't say anything, but she gave a short nod when Lydia passed her desk. Lydia nodded back. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. Then, just as class began, her phone buzzed. "Congratulations, your project has been accepted into the National Youth Science Initiative Showcase. More details to follow." Lydia stared at the screen, then at Leela, then down at her own hands, still trembling, still real. After school, she stood alone in front of the school's stone steps. Reporters were gone now. The crowds had moved on. But Lydia stayed. She looked at the building that once made her feel small. And for the first time it looked different. Not because it had changed, but because she had. She zipped up her coat, shouldered her bag, and walked home with her head high. Not because she won something, but because she refused to let silence win again. And somewhere behind her, in a classroom or office or hallway she'd never even see, someone whispered her name, not with suspicion, but with respect. Lydia McAdams, the girl who refused to disappear.